Robots Radio. Games, lore, stories, community. Just press play. Welcome to the Fallout Lorecast, the podcast that explores the boundaries of our knowledge about the world of Fallout. Welcome back to the Fallout Lorecast. Today we are continuing our exploration of the businesses, the companies and corporations of the Fallout world. And last time we left off with ArcJet Systems, and so we're picking up today with the very next one, going alphabetically through the order of all of these businesses, and there are a lot of them. We're talking today about Arktos Pharma to kick this off, and this may not be one you're familiar with if you haven't played Fallout 76. This is a company that shows up only in Fallout 76, and they had to do with research and development for pharmaceuticals, but then also some other kinds of shady things. Surprise, surprise. A business in the Fallout universe is doing something shady? Absolutely. So if you've seen the automated, I guess they're Mr. Handies most of the time, on some of those farm laboratory looking locations, that's Arktos Pharma. And they started during the pre-war, and they were doing research on stuff that would help grow crops better, things like Project Beanstalk. But eventually, their attention shifted to working with the government on serums that would help with human beings in zero G, something called Formula K, which eventually became Project Z. And there isn't a whole lot of information around these specific formulas and products. There's a document you can find in the game that says, offer Arktos Pharma Project Z, status accepted. Proposal, develop serum derivation from Formula K modified for zero G efficiency in human subjects. Award, monthly upon successful trials. And this is signed Dr. Emerson Hale, USSA, Board of CEOs, Arktos Pharma, Robco, redacted. So there are some hints here that they were at least associated with or in partnership with Robco Industries, which would make sense for if they're putting people in zero G, potentially in orbit around the planet, and testing these things on them. Now, how do we know that their tests weren't always so, beneficial for humanity? There is a researcher named Natalie Ingeson who became a ghoul as a result of participating in their research. So how do we know this? Well, there are some holotapes that remain, so check this out.
Test log 92377A10. Animal subject shows no marked increase or decrease in muscle mass. However, those in the Flora lab have said that this test run showed an increase in growth by as much as 25%. We felt certain that due to the component makeup for the solvent, it would have a marked effect on fauna as well. But even with the inclusion of a matching protein sequence into the solution, the resultant distillate fails to show an increase in size or growth. Whoa! Okay, down! Okay, down! Can you grab it? What was that about? Okay, thanks. Hey, ancillary observation. The test subject seems to be strongly drawn to the solution. This bears further testing. Is it the similar protein sequence?
So there's clearly something going on with the testing that is doing some, unexpected things. And that's not all. We have another holotape. Listen to this.
Test log 31278A14. Eyes appear glassy. Subject seems to be experiencing decreased blood pressure and heart rate. While this new solution appears to trigger a vasovagal response in subjects with a complementary DNA structure, no other reversal. It's no good. I don't know how much of the mutations we've seen are from radiation and what is from the compound we've been working on. I don't understand how Samson got clearance for aerosol testing before we even completed lab trials. Did we cause this? The skin disease? Or is it just a mutation? In one of those whose minds have degraded. Great. The breakers just went out. This winter's taking a toll on the lab. I guess I better get to fixing it before the plants freeze.
All right, so a few things here. Samson is the CEO of the company, and this is dated 3/12/78. That 12 means December. This is December 3rd of 2078. This is after the bombs drop. They continued to do research underground after the war happened. And when she says subject seems to be experiencing decreased blood pressure and heart rate, I have a feeling she's talking about herself. She is turning into a ghoul, and others have already done this before her. This is one of those holotapes that's really fun to find in the game, because if you give it a listen and you actually pay attention, you can hear that there's more going on than what you might have initially expected. Now, as to what eventually happened with Natalie, we don't really know. Is she still a ghoul out there being a person, or is she not really a person anymore? Does she even exist? Well, maybe she'll show up in a future expansion to Fallout 76. Next up on the list, we have the Arlington Dental Foundation. This is a little snippet of information about a dentist, organization. It's not an actual place where that does dentistry, but they were a foundation for dentists. And the reason we know about them is because they donated a significant amount of money to the Arlington Library, which is in Fallout 3. So we're going back a ways, Fallout 3. And, what do we know about them? Well, there's a terminal at the library that reads, "As a result of a generous donation from the Arlington Dental Foundation, the Arlington Reads literacy program will be experiencing exciting new changes. Beginning immediately, the program will change from reading, education, and development system to the following more holistic and hygienic program: reading, education, and dental supplies. So remember to keep your mind sharp and your teeth clean. Arlington Reads." And yes, Reads is in all caps with an exclamation mark, so that's why I read it that way. So, education and development, education and dental supplies, because, we got this big donation from Arlington Dental Foundation, because money controls, everything. So next up, we have Armco, which you might remember from the Lonesome Road DLC in Fallout New Vegas, but also shows up in Fallout 76. In fact, when you're talking to Eddie in New Vegas, you can actually say, "Hey, is that an Armco portable reloading bench built into you? That'll be handy." And you get these happy beeping noises that come out of Eddie. But Armco was basically only known for this. This is the only instance of that name of a company that shows up, but it is used in two different places. This portable reloading bench, I want to say relaunching, that's not it. Portable reloading bench is built into iBots specifically and was used for creating ammunition while out in the field so that you wouldn't run out of ammo. Now, this is something that shows up in Fallout 76 as well, because in Fallout 76, you can use a machine in order to change one ammo type into another ammo type. And this is exactly the same thing, although it's set up in a different way. It does the same function. It doesn't necessarily fit into an iBot. It becomes an actual console that you can go up to and you can put things in and get other things out. And so both of these things were developed by Armco. So this is a fun little callback in Fallout 76 to something that shows up in Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah! Who won the lottery? I did!
So here's a fun little one. Armor Go. If you don't remember this one, I don't blame you, because it is a can of lubrication oil that shows up in Fallout 2. That's it. We don't know anything else about Armor Go. All right, next up on the list, atomic mining services. So let's head back to Appalachia. Let's go back in time a little bit to when they were mining things. And if you remember from some of the lore, there was an issue with the mining companies and the miners in Appalachia, where they started automating the mining process. And the human miners in those locations were already overworked and underpaid, and there was a whole system going on there. And although Atomic Mining Services weren't the company that was actually owning the mines and doing these terrible things, they were the company that was helping to set up automation with the machines and robots that would eventually take people's jobs. They were in partnership with Hornwright Industrial and Garahan Mining Company. And they also worked with Robco Industries a little bit later in order to set up Watoga, which, if you recognize from Fallout 76, is a automated town on the edge of the map. Now, Hornwright Industrial and Garahan Mining welcomed their innovations because there were some mines that were shuttered. There were locations that were too difficult to actually mine through, but they discovered a way to deal with this issue. AMS found a way not only to automate this mining process, but to also detonate nuclear charges to blast through the coal veins and get to other precious deposits. Now, part of this technology has to do with ultracite. And in Fallout 76, ultracite's a big deal. It's a glass-like ore that is interesting because it's also radioactive. Now, isn't everything radioactive? But here's the deal. It doesn't occur naturally. It was actually created. There's a report that states energy production from ultracite continued to exceed expectations. It also noted that the exact process of ultracite's emergence and creation was poorly understood. So it's not something that was in the ground originally, but it seems like something that emerged after the bombs dropped and potentially changed the natural minerals in the ground. Or at least that's my speculation based on what I've learned about it. But here's the thing. The scientists and the people who worked for these corporations didn't know how it initially came into existence. They just discovered it. And then they decided to utilize it because it, contained a lot of energy creating properties along with its radiation. Now, this company wasn't necessarily successful in all the things they promised. In some deep mining in the Welch area, they came across some problems. It turned out that mining deep underground there wasn't as easy as setting off these underground detonations, and they ended up severely damaging the environment. This is part of why that part of the map looks so barren. It wasn't just the mining process the regular mining process that made the world look, kind of like a wasteland in that area. And it wasn't because it got bombed. It was due to all of these issues they had that basically destroyed the environment. After this, they started working on the creation of Watoga. Now, Watoga is an automated city for, the richest of the Appalachians. And this was in partnership with Robco, which makes sense because you see a lot of the Robco robots and things roaming around the city. Now, in order to do this, they needed to move materials back and forth. And so they gave some of the miners who had lost their jobs and, actually not just lost their jobs from mining, but then still had jobs from maintaining the equipment that was used for mining that was no longer in use due to the failed mining efforts, and basically gave them jobs as transporters, transporting ultracite by hand, radioactive material by hand from the excavation sites to Watoga, which is in a similar area of the map. So of course this doesn't go well, and it leads to protests and a bunch of very unhappy citizens in Appalachia. Now, this might be the beginning of those protests, but it's not the end of it, because it gets even worse. Remember, they were working in Welch, and they were working on those mines, and they were blowing things up underground, discovering ultracite. Well, the ultracite continued to show up in very strange locations, much closer to the surface. In fact, in some places, it was protruding through the walls and the floors of people's homes. Now, This was a problem not only for the people who lived there because the ultrasite was showing up and it was radioactive, but because AMS then followed up and said, hey, we have the rights to this ultrasite. You need to give us this land. And they started claiming the land of residents in the area. Now, this became violent, and eventually the military had to intervene. The National Guard shows up, and that's when the automation riots begin. So joblessness and abuse leads to protest, and then continued abuse and losing people's homes leads to rioting. So thanks, AMS and all those other corporations. Now, there are some fun little Easter eggs here. It turns out that if you visit the AMS headquarters, which you can go to in the game, there's an automated voice in the lobby that says the name of the company incorrectly. It says Automated Mining Services, but that's not the name of the company. It's Atomic Mining Services. Now, what if, and this is just speculation on my part, what if they were originally Automated Mining Services and then the company got renamed later Atomic Mining Services? But you would assume then that the automated voice at the building would have been updated. So maybe it's just a mistake. But that's not the only location where the name is incorrect. On the AMS testing page, in the Fallout 76 Vault Dweller Survival Guide, it also says Automated Mining Systems. So maybe the name was just changed and some things didn't get updated, on the back end in Bethesda's working on the project. Now, you might be thinking, using nuclear weapons, or at least nuclear explosives, in order to mine underground seems like something crazy out of Fallout. Well, turns out that it actually happened in the real world. Have you ever heard of something called Project Plowshare? It's time for that spring reset. I'm taking a look at everything in my closet and figuring out that, oh no, this absolutely needs to go. And it's about time I replace things so that my clothes aren't older than my 15-year-old. Now, you might think that they lasted that long because they were well made, but no, they're in terrible condition. Unlike the new jeans I just got from Quince. Jeans have always been my personal go-to because you can kind of wear them for lots of different things, but maybe they're not your thing. Maybe you're looking for, 100% European linen with insanely soft flow knit activewear fabric. It's definitely getting warmer, and their flow knit activewear is moisture wicking, anti-odor, and soft enough that you'll actually want to wear it every day. So pick out what you want. You can't go wrong because they have prices 50 to 60% less than similar brands. And like I said before, they are high quality. I continue to wear their clothes all the time, and I know that these new jeans are going to last me a lot better than the other things in my wardrobe. And on top of it, they look great. They're so comfortable, and I spent just as much on the jeans that I am now cleaning out of my wardrobe. So if you're looking for something better, just all around better, go check out Quince. So go do it right now. Refresh your wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/falloutlore for free shipping and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. Go to quince.com/falloutlore for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/falloutlore. This is from the 1960s and 70s in the United States, and I'm going to read some of the sections off of the Wikipedia article, the best source on the internet. Well, sometimes. Well, here's what it says. Project Plowshare was the overall United States program for the development of techniques to use nuclear explosives for peaceful construction purposes. The project was organized in June 1957, so it starts in 57, continues through the 60s and 70s, as part of the worldwide Atoms for Peace efforts. As part of the program, 35 nuclear warheads were detonated in 27 separate tests. A similar program was carried out in the Soviet Union under the name Nuclear Explosions for the National Economy. The Soviet Union name of their program is so much better than just Project Plowshare. Although the Soviet program consisted of 124 tests. Successful demonstrations of non-combat uses for nuclear explosives include rock blasting, stimulation of tight gas, chemical element manufacture, unlocking some of the mysteries of the R process of stellar nucleosynthesis, and probing the composition of the Earth's deep crust, creating reflection seismology vibroses data, which has helped geologists and follow-on mining companies prospecting. What? This is insane. The project's uncharacteristically large and atmospherically vented sedan nuclear test also led geologists to determine the Barringer crater was formed as a result of a meteor impact and not from a volcanic eruption, as had early been assumed. This became the first crater on Earth definitely proven to be from an impact event. So these tests led people to understand what the difference was between things that explode underground that create craters and things that impact the surface like meteors that create craters. Negative impacts from the Project Plowshares test generated significant public opposition. Really? Which eventually led to the program's termination in 1977. These consequences included tritiated water. Now, tritiated water is water that is changed from its normal state to a form that is corrosive. And there's a lot more going on there, but we won't get into all the chemistry because, well, it's over my head. And it's been a long time since I've been in a chemistry class. But yeah, it turned the groundwater into tritiated water, projected to increase by CER Geonuclear Corporation to a level of 2% of the then maximum level for drinking water. Now, this is something that occurs naturally in some water, but the amount of it in regular water getting to a level too high becomes dangerous. And the deposition of fallout from radioactive material being injected into the atmosphere before underground testing was mandated by treaty. This was a bad idea. We're putting nuclear explosions into the ground, and that is causing problems. So you can see where they got this idea for mining in Appalachia in fallout, and the fact that by doing this, you're getting weird results like potentially ultracite. Now, that doesn't happen in real life. We don't actually have ultracite in real life, but in fallout, that's what it turns into. So there you go. That's Atomic Mining Services. And I don't know, if you ask me, that name sounds accurate. All right, let's head back to New Vegas. You remember wandering around in Freeside before you got to the Strip? Remember coming up to a casino named the Atomic Wrangler Casino? This is the only casino in Freeside that's still operational. Now, if you remember, you could go here for, well, a few different services that they provided. It was a flop house, a brothel, and a source of chems. They were chem dealers. It's also located near the Silver Rush and the King's School of Impersonation, if you remember the Kings. Oh, man, that was a good imitation I did there. You also might remember James and Francine, who basically run the place, and they keep a bunch of armed guards, and they aren't the friendliest people when you first go in. Now, it's a dark, dingy location that is basically serving the needs of the people of this area who don't have enough caps to actually make it into the Strip itself. This includes a variety of different individuals from these different groups, which they've got kind of a tenuous relationship with, and also includes people from the NCR who just are in the area and don't have any money but are looking for some of their services, which still includes actual gambling. I mean, they have a blackjack table, a roulette, and slot machines, and you can sit down and play them. And you can also just, pick up a beer or a whiskey or absinthe with the chips that you earn. Now, if you recall, you win the chips from gambling and then you can cash them in. So 1,250 chips is a beer, 2,500 chips is a whiskey, or if you're feeling like dressing up, you can get the Dapper Gambler hat. For $37.50, you can get absinthe, rum and nuka, and the Dapper Gambling suit. So you can be, well, extremely fancy. But there's a limit. If you get 5,000, well, that's when you get banned from gambling. Now, you can still go in and use the other services, but no more gambling for you. So there are some other fun little details. Things like you can find the casino's crier outside. If you remember, he's down the street corner with a Freeside sign. Also, this place is a brothel. And, well, you don't see a whole lot of, prostitutes walking around. But if you walk by the rooms, you can hear some noises coming from them of people, doing their thing. Also, after you finish the Wang Dang Atomic Tango quest, you can, get it on with your choice of, companion. You've got a ghoul cowgirl / dominatrix named Beatrix Russell, or there's Santiago / Old Ben, depending on your decisions during the quest. And then there's also the sex bot Fisto. Now, Fisto is particularly interesting because if you exit the dialogue with Fisto, you get 10 caps, but this can be repeated over and over and over again. So Fisto will just keep giving you 10 caps, which is kind of weird, but also hilarious. Because usually when you employ somebody for that service, you pay them, but okay. Now, this other detail is pretty interesting as well, because I remember playing through this the first time, and you can get to their cash box. You can get the key from one of the twins, and you can open up the box. And I'm thinking, oh, this is a casino. There's probably a lot of caps in here, a lot of money. Turns out it's just a few bundles of pre-war money and also 100 caps. And I remember being very disappointed by that. What? There's only 100 caps here? This place is broke. Now, like some other locations and businesses and things like that, there are actually some other real world connections here. On Fremont Street in downtown Las Vegas, there is a store called the Atomic Liquors Store. Now, this may have been the influence for having something named Atomic in Freeside. Fremont, Freeside, Atomic Liquors, Atomic Wrangler Casino. Could be a connection there. But even more interestingly, if you look at the logo of the casino, there is a cowboy riding the symbol of an atom, like the nucleus with the little electrons going around the outsides. And this cowboy's riding, he's sitting on an actual, what's it called? When you sit on a horse and you sit on the saddle, that's what it's called, a saddle. He's sitting on the saddle and he has his hat in the air. He's got it up in the air, kind of like he's riding one of those automated bull machines that you see in country bars or, those kinds of things. And he's riding on the back of this thing. Now, this is an actual reference to a scene in Dr. Strangelove, which, if you haven't seen, is a very classic movie about atomic bombs. And it is over the top ridiculous. There is a scene where Major T.J. King Kong rides a falling nuclear bomb just like this, like a cowboy riding a bull or a horse or whatever at the rodeo. So there you go. That's Atomic Wrangler Casino.
Hello there, old chap. Good to see another of General Atomic's finest, still eager to serve.
All right, I hope you're enjoying these looks at these businesses and companies and corporations. We'll be getting into the bees section next time, and thanks for being here and supporting the show. Really do appreciate it. And welcome to Raynor, our newest Patreon, patreon.com/followlorecast. Go check everything out. Also, join us for free. You can just join for free. You can be part of our community on Discord, but also on the Patreon. And as a free member, you're going to get access to things like just updates. Like if there's something going on and I need to let the community know, like I posted recently asking the question, hey, who is the worst villain in Fallout? What do you think? And I'm going to get a bunch of people's feedback on that and then probably turn that into an episode. Who knows? Maybe that'll be the next episode, depending on how much feedback I get back. But join the Discord, join the Patreon for free, check out all that stuff, and be a part of it. Also, for our free members and everyone else, I'm still planning to do some giveaways, some fun things, and I would love for you to be part of that. So head to patreon.com/followlorecast. Check out everything else too. You get ad-free episodes. You can join us for patron chats. You get t-shirts or stickers, all sorts of fun stuff. Also, have to shout out our Sentry bots, Germinator and Dusty Ray. Thank you so much for your support and your continued support. I really do appreciate it. You guys are the best. Also, if you've been enjoying the show and you've been just tuning in for free, I really do appreciate you being part of the audience. Also, if you'd like to help out in other ways, you can leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and I can at least see the ones in the US. So if you do that and you live in the US, I'll read it out on a future episode. But even if you don't live in the US, I really do appreciate it. And also rating the show on Spotify or whatever other platform. Thanks for being a part of this and making it possible. And also, until next week, stay safe out there. And, well, if a mining company decides to start blowing things up underground, maybe it's a good time to move. Just think about that. All right. I'll see you next time. To plug into everything else we're doing, check out robotsradio.net. Reach out to me on Twitter at robots_radio. Check out the Robots Radio Rocket Club, where you can join me and a bunch of our other creators creating your podcast, starting a new podcast, or helping your current podcast grow. There's more information about that on robotsradio.net as well. And you can always talk with us and the entire community, over 2,000 people on the Robots Radio Discord. Come join us. We'd love to chat with you. See you guys next time.